You have to defend your citizens. So care about children. We don't want children to be killed.
So you think they're inflated numbers?
So our leadership now is committed to peace. So endgame, Hamas is not anymore dominant of Gaza.
Ambassador, hello, and thank you for speaking with us again. Earlier today, Israel agreed to a 4-day pause in its military operations. Yet a week ago, it rejected a Malta-led resolution calling for exactly that, pauses in the fighting. Why has Israel U-turned on that decision?
None of us could predict what happened on the 7th of October. And I think the scratch that it put on our society, on the Palestinian society as well, which I think are being hostages to the Hamas. But one has to also to see that Israel has a full right, like any democratic country, any country, to defend its citizens. That's why our aims were very clear. One is to release the hostages, the Hamas kidnapped, and surely we were very clear in the second aim, which is destroying the military apparatus and the political apparatus of the Hamas. Because
Indeed, and this has obviously been very clear, and like I said, people were very shocked by the attacks on October the 7th. But now, particularly meeting today, in the context of what happened very recently, which is this agreeing for this 4-day pause. And I think a lot of people in Malta want to know, why has Israel agreed to this now? You know, we had a resolution at the UN that actually Malta drafted this, and it was rejected very quickly afterwards by Israel. So why the change in a week? Why the change in direction?
yes, 4-day ceasefire, but the 4-day ceasefire, as Israel insisted from the beginning, were clearly conditioned in the release of a major or significant number of hostages. I don't know where did you get the notion that Israel fully rejected the Security Council resolution. Maybe you will say that you quote Israeli UN ambassador. If you look at the official position of the Israeli Foreign Ministry, there was no rejection. Yes, every resolution we have something which we like, something we don't like.
And one thing I also wanted to ask you about, I mean, the way this is viewed is quite an important thing. Okay, now earlier this month, Malta's Prime Minister, Robert Abellas, said, and I quote, "No terrorist attack should lead to retaliation that sees the butchering and massacring of innocent children, parents and civilians, and the loss of so many innocent lives." How do you respond to this comment?
I'm not going to try to say if this statement was balanced or not balanced. It's not up to my diplomatic vocabulary to get to that. But I think when I'm judging the overall situation, I think that Malta, as a friend of Israel, is trying its best. They have constraints like any country to have as balanced position as possible. We don't expect Malta to stand with us on everything we do, but we ask Malta, and I think we do have Malta, in the judging the aims of the war, the judging the situation in balanced way. Yes, they can criticize us because between friends, criticism is very legitimate, even being respected. So I don't think it's up to me to criticize your leaders. If we have something to react, we do it in diplomatic arena.
Okay, I mean, this is not just confined to the Prime Minister here, however. A group of activists, including Malta's former president, wrote to the government recently asking it to actually recall its ambassador.
In order, and as I said, between friends, and there could be disagreements, but diplomat, as ambassador specifically, has a role to fulfill. And if you recall ambassador, let it be Malta, let it be Ireland, let it be Israel recalling other ambassador, the fact that there is a diplomatic service, the fact that there are ambassadors, they have a role to play. And to neutralize this, you just hurt the interest of your country. If Malta wants to play a role, and Malta is a respected member of Security Council, in my opinion, no member of Security Council should take unbalanced position, because in the end of the day, the name of the game is leaving the diplomatic channels open. Recalling an ambassador is just the opposite.
Okay, let's broaden this out from Malta now, because there has been it seems that the focus has kind of shifted now, from obviously shock at what happened to Israel on October the 7th, really to increase scrutiny of how it's carried out its response. And it really feels like the public opinion around the world is changing. Are you not worried that this will damage Israel's reputation and its image, perhaps permanently, on the world stage?
First of all, anybody which is representing his country should be concerned about the image of his country. So I don't think any of our leaders, none of our diplomats underestimate judging. But when you speak about numbers, first of all, what is the main source for these numbers, and I don't think anybody has the real numbers. It's coming from the Hamas press.
So you think they're inflated numbers?
That?
Do you think the numbers
I didn't
are
say
inflated?
Just listen to what I'm saying. The numbers coming from the Hamas. Hamas is using it for agitation. They use it numbers also to increase their leverage and to discredit Israel. You have to defend your citizens. So to defend your citizens, you have to take military measures, yes, counted on the legal aspects, fulfilling the law and the humanitarian international. And let's just finish. And from that purpose, when you speak about numbers, you have to speak about context. Each children in Israel or in Palestinian Authority or in Gaza is important. We care about children. We don't want children to be killed. But if the Hamas terrorist organization choose to put their military infrastructure under hospitals, in schools, on the fortified is intentionally, and they're launching the rockets from civilian place. You know that 1,000 rockets of the Hamas fell on Palestinian territory. Many of the casualties are from the Hamas rockets. And I think that in the end of the day, I agree with you. Unfortunately, the attention did focus now almost only to what's happening in Gaza. But the fact that we have 150 or 200,000 people, refugees in Israel, is something that unfortunately is being neglected. And I'm not equating suffering. I think each sufferer in Malta, especially as a country which in the Security Council is very much focusing on the children, she's also looked for women. And if tens of Israeli women were raped on the 7th of October, how much your paper reported about it?
Of course, but one of the things you said there is a country should be able to defend itself. And other countries agreed at a UN level, but what they did say is this also had to be in proportion, okay, and in line with international law. Now, something that came out very recently was from the Euromed Human Rights Monitor, and they estimated that Israel has dropped around 25,000 tons of explosives on Gaza, which they said is the equivalent to 2 nuclear bombs, the size of which were dropped in World War II. I mean, that's on an area only 15% larger than Malta. Is that proportionate?
I think if you know the legal, the laws, international law, you will see that proportion as a special definition. It's not the numbers which are count where the military act is proportional or the right thing. It's about the difference on the ratio between the force that you use and the legitimacy of the target you are using. And if you read correctly the law and the distinction of the laws of war, you will find it is not about the numbers, and I'm not underestimating, as I said, any children, any women in our side and the Palestinian side. It's not the numbers.
So the numbers don't matter?
I didn't say so. Don't quote me what I didn't say. I said numbers are matter. And as I said, each children is numbers. Each children on the Palestinian side and the Israeli side or any other side is important. And we deal about any casualty on our side and the Palestinian side. But it's not only, when you speak about proportion, it's not numbers. Look in the definitive definition. What does it mean, legal law? But I think in the end of the day, and I think we have to finish the interview in 1 minute, is to see what is the end game, where we are going. I worked with the late Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, which was committed to peace. So our leadership now is committed to peace. But in order to have peace with the Palestinian, and I'm not speaking with two-state solution and whatever, I think, first of all, Israel need the support of the international community to see that we'll be able to support us when we are defending our citizens. If you judge by legal and by all the other criteria, you will find that we do our best to try to minimize the casualties. And I never said that the numbers are not important. Numbers are important. You know, there is in the Jewish tradition a very important sentence. One soul is the whole universe. So we look at one soul, not only Jewish, also for the Arabs.
You use the word endgame there. So the thing is now, we're in a situation where essentially, because of the huge amount of bombing that has been taking place and the military action, it might not be an exaggeration to say that Israel has created a failed state on its doorstep, okay? And there's a good chance it's radicalized many, if not the majority, of the around 2 million people that live in Gaza. I mean, this is a dangerous situation for Israel as well. What is Israel's endgame?
I think it was very clear. The war aims were very clearly put by the decision of our government. And I made it very clear. One is to see that our hostages, 240, are back home safely. And hopefully, most of them are alive. Most of them were not executed by the Hamas. And the Hamas knows where they are sitting. I wish that the Red Cross will be able to give an access, to get an access to let us know. And the second one is to destroy the military apparatus, the political apparatus of Hamas, because I think for the benefit of the Palestinian population in Gaza, they don't need Hamas going back. So endgame, Hamas is not anymore dominant of Gaza.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.